On New Year's Eve, Julian's little darling deliberately lit fireworks to burn me, causing severe burns. The skin graft site on her back was even more bloody and blurred, but I resolutely gave up asking Julian for help. Instead, I tightly protected the recently found heir of a wealthy family beneath me, performing emergency rescue. In my past life, Julian kicked me in the back, telling me not to block his little darling's way to the hospital. Eleanor, is it fun using a child as a pretense? Even if you are pregnant, you and your child are just Stella's mobile organ bank. I spoiled you. You even dare to commit murder and arson. Blacklisted by all hospitals, I ultimately died with 2 lives full of hatred. Opening my eyes again, Stella secretly lit fireworks, aiming them at the night sky, a sinister smile reaching my ears. Go to hell with your little bastard. The moment the fireworks collided with the hydrogen balloons, raging flames immediately engulfed me. The thick acrid smoke suffocated me, and I could only endure the pain in my abdomen and back, forcing myself to stay calm. Sister Eleanor, I feel so bad. Following the weak cry for help, I saw Arya painfully clutching his heart, collapsing in a pool of blood. The Sterling family's eldest grandson, but he was abducted, and only recently returned home. He's still just a child. Dragging my heavy steps, I tightly protected him, who suffered from a heart condition, beneath me. It's okay, I'm here. I pulled out my earring and stabbed it into my thigh to barely avoid fainting, gently comforting him. I won't let anything happen to you. The hands performing CPR paused, and a Rolls-Royce Phantom sped over. The opening car door slammed me aside, and the car owner who rushed to Stella's side first was none other than my husband, Julian. Even a glance at his bloody wife didn't hesitate his steps. Holding Stella, he checked her from head to toe. In this life, his heart is still completely biased. The burning sensation struck my abdomen like a fiery snake. The unhealed wound on my back emitted the stench of burnt flesh, and cold sweat streamed down my face. Mr. Ashford, Madam is bleeding a lot. His assistant was shocked and subconsciously ran towards me with a bandage. But the next second, Julian, with a face full of disgust, stopped him. She set off fireworks in public. If Stella hadn't told me, who knows what disaster would have happened. Tears welled up in my eyes. As expected, Julian always completely believed Stella's words. Ignoring my cries for help, the top doctors, under his orders, surrounded Stella, and even all the hospitals blacklisted me. In this life, my heart is dead towards him. On one hand, I silently contacted the Sterling family, and on the other hand, I continued to give Arya emergency aid, not daring to stop. After recognition, the Sterling family, fearing a repeat of the past, specifically equipped a bodyguard team to protect his safety. In the chaos just now, he was separated by the crowd. I believe they will arrive here soon. Residual sparks jumped onto my arm, and when I raised my arm, I tore off a layer of skin. The assistant exclaimed, anxiously looking at Julian. Mr. Ashford, Madam just had skin graft surgery, and now she's severely burned again. Just because Stella deliberately burned her arm, I was forcibly dragged onto the operating table by Julian to apologize to her. Thinking of this, there was another throbbing pain in my abdomen. The doctors who were doting on Stella immediately mocked. You're helping her so much, are you having some kind of illicit relationship? It's all her own fault. To compete with Ms. Stella, she cried, made a fuss and tried to hang herself. Who doesn't know that Ashford has a vicious-hearted wife? From beginning to end, Julian didn't spare me a single glance, condoning this verbal violence. Uncle, Sister Eleanor has a baby in her belly, please save her. Weak Arya nestled in my arms, asking Julian, who looked the most reliable, for help. His innocent concern choked me up. Without my involvement, he shouldn't have suddenly had a heart attack in the previous life. I grabbed the man's coat, my voice trembling as I begged him to help Arya. He is the Sterling family's eldest grandson. Who would have thought that Julian would directly take off his coat and throw it aside, his eyes full of disgust? Who doesn't know that the Sterling family's eldest grandson has long been lost? Where did you find this wild child? Having said that, he stomped heavily on my stomach with his leather shoes. Stop pretending, I always use protection. There's no way you're pregnant. As soon as he finished speaking, Stella's cries of pain drew his heart, and he held her in his arms, coaxing her softly. I laughed despairingly, blood mixed with festering pus splattering on the ground, forming small puddles. How absurd, a husband taking care of his mistress in front of his pregnant wife. The assistant secretly explained for Julian, but I shook my head. Not long ago, my father bravely fought against human traffickers and rescued Arya, but he died unexpectedly. When I asked Julian to attend the funeral, he scoffed and said that my father was meddling, and spent New Year's Eve with Stella. On the New Year's that should have been a reunion, I guarded the morning hall alone, shedding tears. You want to commit murder and arson just because I didn't spend New Year's with you? His eyes were fierce, and he suddenly raised his voice. If something happens to Stella, you and that non-existent bastard can forget about having a good time. Before sending Stella to the hospital, a handkerchief fell on my head. Wipe it up, it looks disgusting. Icy words pierced my heart like steel needles. Exhaust fumes constricted my lungs, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. I wiped the blood away with the back of my hand, and gave a self-deprecating smile. Julian's scales always tipped toward Stella. Oh my God. This child is foaming at the mouth. Is he going to die? The crowd panicked, but no one stepped forward to help. I held my breath, waved the crowd away, and loosened Arya's collar. Wake up, don't sleep. But his pupils were dilated, and he was already powerless to respond. Suddenly, a cigarette butt, falling from who knows where, reignited the hydrogen. In an instant, flames soared into the sky, and a wave of heat swept over us. Screams grew louder and louder. In the chaos, my wrists and ankles were trampled, swollen, and bruised. I looked down into Arya's fearful eyes. He said weakly, "Sister, run." My blood felt like it was about to be evaporated by the all-consuming flames. The skin on my back sizzled from the scorching heat, and I swayed, unable to help but roar. Clenching my teeth, I carried Arya on my back and ran towards the fountain not far away. Pushing and shoving, I fell to my knees. Even as sharp pebbles dug deep into my flesh, I continued to press on his chest, gently calling out to him. Feeling his chest gradually rebounding with strength, I suddenly collapsed, an empty shell, devoid of power. The bodyguards arrived belatedly, drawing a sharp breath when their eyes met mine. In less than an hour, Ms. Eleanor doesn't have a single good spot on her body. If it weren't for her, young master would have. Arya, just waking up, wept, clutching my hand tightly. Sister, I don't want you to die. I only closed my eyes in peace after seeing Mr. Sterling put his grandson into the ambulance. When I opened my eyes again, I was covered in tubes and wires. The doctor on round said I was incredibly lucky. During the surgery, my will to live was weak, and only when the child was mentioned did my heart rate stabilize. Hearing that the child was safe, I breathed a sigh of relief. The hospital door opened and Mr. Sterling was overjoyed to see me awake. He even tried to bow to me. Eleanor, if Arya wasn't so attached to you, I would never have troubled you. Otherwise, you could have been with your family. Hearing this, I lowered my eyes and smiled bitterly. Besides the child in my womb, where else did I have a family? I must investigate who deliberately lit the fireworks and give you an explanation. I quickly helped him up. The long-lost concern brought a sting to my nose. Although he and I were not related, Mr. Sterling wanted to seek justice for me, while Julian, my husband, believed I was the culprit. A smile more bitter than tears tugged at the corner of my lips. Remembering the man's coldness and heartlessness, my face turned ashen. Seeing my despondency, Mr. Sterling sighed and patted my shoulder before leaving. As long as Sterling stands, you will always be our lifesaver. I nodded heavily, grateful for this connection. But just as I was basking in the warmth, an uninvited guest suddenly appeared. Eleanor, who allowed you to take Stella's attending physician? Julian grabbed me off the bed without explanation, his tightly knit brows showing his displeasure. Stella clung to his waist, shrinking back when she saw me, her eyes red-rimmed. It's okay, Wangjin. Eleanor has hurt me so many times, I'm used to it. Please don't fight because of me. Hearing this, Julian's anger flared, and he poked my forehead with his finger. It's all thanks to Stella stopping me, or you would have been in for it. I'll only ask you one question, he said grimly. Will you give him up, or not? Once, if he just asked, I would have given him my heart and soul willingly. But now I smiled, and tears streamed down my face, my voice filled with unprecedented resolve. I won't let you. I turned my head, meeting Julian's eyes without flinching. Not unless I'm dead. The air was deathly silent. The reprimand that was about to erupt was stuck in his throat. Julian's eyes widened, never expecting me to resist. Eleanor, who gave you the audacity? The more he spoke, the more agitated he became. He grabbed my chin, saying each word with emphasis. Even if it kills you, you have to let her. Otherwise, you can forget about being Mrs. Lou. Thinking he had grasped my weakness, a hint of contempt flashed in the man's eyes. Julian, I said, prying his hand off and looking him straight in the eye. Let's get a divorce. Seeing the man stunned in place, Stella immediately burst into tears like a pear blossom in the rain. She leaned against the headboard, her shoulders trembling, insincerely taking my hand. If you don't want to let her, I can die. If you don't want to take responsibility, I can go to jail for you. As soon as she finished speaking, the beaded bracelet on her wrist was snapped. Taking advantage of the situation, she hugged me, Stella's sharp nails digging into my back. But please don't upset Wang Jin. I can't bear to see him sad. Before I could cry out in pain, I pushed her away, accidentally knocking over a glass. The shards pierced the soles of my feet, the sharp pain in my palm tearing at every nerve. My fingertips trembled as I picked up the scattered beads one by one. At that moment, my heart was also shattered. That year, I fell into a coma to save Julian. He, who never prayed to gods or Buddha, put his hands together, trembling, kowtowed, stood up, made a wish, and begged for this bracelet for me. Wishing only for my peace and well-being. It accompanied me through countless long nights, but meeting the man's confused gaze, my heart turned ice-cold in an instant. Everything has a spirit. Perhaps it also sensed Julian's dwindling love. On the verge of collapse, Stella pressed down on my shoulder, causing the shards to dig even deeper. Eleanor, with skin grafts and burns, you're really tough. So what if you have the identity of his wife? She whispered provocatively. The day of your father's funeral, Wang Jin was actually there, but I was hooking up with him behind the portrait several times. Your crying was so annoying. My hand froze in midair. The beads I had been clutching slipped from my grasp, and I covered my mouth in disbelief. How dare they? I started banging my head against her like a madwoman, hysterically venting my anger. Are you even human? But she just dodged slightly, and I crashed into the wall, blood gushing down. Stella took the lead and collapsed to the ground, her cheeks covered in tears, looking at me in shock. Eleanor, I was just comforting you. The next second, she buried her head in Julian's neck and sobbed. Wang Jin, I don't want the doctor anymore. I don't want to make things difficult for you. Seeing this, the man carefully carried her to the bed, strode towards me, grabbed my collar and scolded sternly. Eleanor, you've gone too far. Lying through your teeth, disregarding human life, doing whatever you please, I've spoiled you. He pressed his fingers against the corner of his eyes, but the tears became even harder to suppress. I couldn't believe that the once sincere and passionate Julian had ultimately become a faithless man. Holding onto the wall, I trembled and barely managed to stand up, my voice hoarse. Julian, you did those disgusting things in front of my father's altar, and you blame me for going too far? Stella deliberately lit fireworks when releasing the balloons, almost killing our child, and you still think she's innocent and naive. Having said that, Stella fell heavily from the hospital bed, her red eyes filled with stubbornness and despair. It seems I've disturbed your family of three's happiness. The doctor said that if my burns aren't treated with new skin in time, it could be life-threatening. I'll die far away so I don't offend your eyes. Deliberately exposing the mottled skin, she tearfully dialed the phone to give up treatment. Hearing this, the last shred of guilt and unease in Julian's eyes vanished. He lightly pecked Stella's lips, then shot me a sinister look. You can't possibly be pregnant, he said in a low voice, ordering the doctor to come to the ward. Since Stella needs a skin graft, then peel the skin off your stomach for her. Suddenly lifting his foot, Julian stomped hard on my lower abdomen, trapping me in a narrow corner. I'll do it myself. Completely pinned to the spot, I was struck by lightning, unable to believe his cruelty. My eyes darted around helplessly, my throat constricted with pain, and I pleaded with a choked voice. Julian, I'm not lying to you, please don't do this. Scared. His low voice was tinged with mockery. Weren't you afraid when you harmed Stella? Maternal instinct made me subconsciously protect my stomach, but he assumed I was acting and ripped open my hospital gown with his bare hands. Mr. Ashford, there's no anesthetic in the ward. Since Mrs. isn't pregnant, how about using Bygeo instead? The doctor exchanged a knowing smile with Stella. Let me go. I struggled desperately, but the man held my limbs tightly, leaving me only to cry and plead. Julian, I'll die. At those words, Stella staggered back, covering her mouth and saying with grievance, Eleanor, it's one thing if you want my life, but why are you using yourself to threaten Wangjin? Without hesitation, Julian snatched the Bygeo from the assistant's hand and forcibly clamped my jaw. Eleanor, harming others always comes at a price. Stella has been framed by you time and time again. 2 pieces of skin is a bargain for you. The moment the entire bottle of Bygeo was poured down my throat, my abdomen was burning and numb. My hands waved weakly in the air, and I completely gave up resisting, intermittently trembling and begging for mercy. I was wrong. I only ask that you don't hurt the child. A hint of reluctance flashed in his eyes, but meeting Stella's misty, tear-filled gaze, Julian decisively took the scalpel. After the skin is taken, I'll give you the best healing medicine. Stella is kind and will forgive you. The cold blade peeled back flesh and blood. The force was slightly clumsy, but the pain was excruciating. Julian was covered in blood, but his movements did not stop for a moment. He didn't stop until my stomach was completely peeled open. Then he kept rubbing his eyes, his face turning pale instantly. He suddenly took half a step back, almost stumbling into the wall. Impossible. How can there be the outline of a baby in your stomach? At the same time, the assistant burst in with Mr. Sterling. Julian, what are you doing to the benefactor of my Sterling family? The child was barely formed, its delicate arms and tiny feet clearly visible. Julian panicked, frantically trying to stick the piece of skin back onto my stomach. Eleanor, how could you know Mr. Sterling? Wake up. You must be faking it, right? What new trick is this? He seemed to think it was absurd, but still stubbornly tried to shake me awake. But I was like a corpse, staring blankly at the ceiling, faintly hearing the cries of a baby. The stench of blood and alcohol filled the ward. Mr. Sterling, enraged, kicked the disruptive Julian to the ground. What are you standing there for? Call a doctor. Dazed, I was rushed into the operating room, surrounded by doctors from the entire hospital. Forcibly skinned on the abdomen and back, severe burns, the child cannot be saved. The pregnant woman is hemorrhaging heavily, needs an emergency blood transfusion. Director, the blood bank is running low. Julian jumped up and frantically pounded on the door of the emergency room, shouting in a raised voice. I'm Eleanor's husband, I have the same blood type as her, take mine. His fingers scratched deep and shallow marks on the door, veins bulging on his forehead as he suppressed the anxiety in his heart. Take as much as you need, just save her. Seeing this, the doctor frowned. She's your wife? I thought she was the one who killed your father. You dare to skin her while she has severe burns. Are you afraid she and the child will live? Force-feeding her a liter of liquor, I ask you, which is worse than death, a stomach pump and blood transfusion or an abortion? I now seriously suspect you are forging your identity and plotting murder. Countless bags of blood were continuously pumped into the operating room, almost completely replacing all the blood in my body. Julian was frantic. He stopped the doctor and demanded in a condescending manner, I am the president of the Ashford Group. If you don't let me into the operating room to ensure my wife's safety, do you believe I can bankrupt this hospital tomorrow? Believe I'll bankrupt Ashford first. A cane struck the ground violently as Mr. Sterling and Arya slowly appeared, escorted by bodyguards. His sharp gaze was scrutinizing, making Julian feel utterly ashamed. Eleanor is Arya's benefactor, a guest of the Sterling family. Anyone who dares to bully her from now on, the Sterling family and your Ashford are irreconcilable. Julian's eyes were locked on Arya, feeling as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Eleanor wasn't lying to me. He really is the eldest grandson of the Sterling family. The man collapsed outside the operating room, his eyes bloodshot, tears wetting his chin as he called out my name. Eleanor, wife. Why didn't you say it a few more times? Annoyed that he was interfering with the surgery, The bodyguards dragged him out of the hospital at Mr. Sterling's signal. Seeing my shocking injuries, Arya burst into tears. Sister Eleanor, I still want to be a big brother to the baby, you'll be okay. The heart monitor beeped an alarm. I covered his eyes with my hand. The little baby went to heaven. He has a bad father and can't feel any love, so he doesn't want to come to this world. Those who heard it were moved to tears, and even Mr. Sterling, who had weathered many storms, could not help but have tears in his eyes. Ruffling Arya's hair, I forced myself to cheer up and made a pinky promise with him. Sister promised to take you to the amusement park, trust me. Another wave of pain struck, and my thoughts wandered. The day my father fought with the traffickers, he could have survived if he had been rescued in time. But the road was unexpectedly blocked, delaying treatment. Until I saw Stella's post on WeChat. Someone blocked roads all over the city to chase his wife. What a sweet burden. And the male protagonist of the incident was Julian, my husband, who wouldn't answer my calls. I tried to make excuses for him, but I could never fool myself. Julian indirectly caused my father's death. Mr. Sterling, please arrange for an amniocentesis for me. I begged, heartbroken and gasping for breath. If I die, please be sure to tell Julian that he caused me and the baby's death. Even if I die, I want Julian to remember it forever. To live in regret for the rest of his life, endlessly. Fortunately, heaven took pity, and I survived. My only regret is that innocent child. I'm always saddened. Isn't it a kind of luck to not be born into such a twisted family? Mr. Sterling took me in as his adopted daughter, and brought me back to the Sterling family to care for me. Thinking of Julian's frantic confession outside the operating room that day, my nose stung. He didn't even send anyone to the hospital to ask about my condition. Stella, on the other hand, was exceptionally active, and their sweet photos occupied my entire social circle. The wedding dress on her stung my eyes. That was the result of half a year's worth of my hard work. Julian had clearly promised that as long as I gave Stella a skin graft, he would hold the wedding and make my identity public. Mr. Sterling was furious when he received the engagement invitation. I didn't say a word, looking over the paternity test results in my hand again and again. Mr. Sterling, just tell him I'm dead. With my death, the marital relationship was automatically dissolved. The past love could no longer bind me. Mr. Sterling acted decisively. After getting my consent, my urn and portrait were sent to Julian. Trembling as he examined the wedding ring, Julian was silent for a long time, not even hearing Stella's coquetry. Eleanor is dead. How could that be? Muttering impossible repeatedly, he was certain that I was afraid of death. Meanwhile, Stella, suppressing a smirk, inadvertently provoked him. Eleanor is still angry about the hospital incident, right? She's deliberately playing hard to get during the new year, just trying to win your sympathy. Wang Jin, otherwise, let's return the wedding dress to Eleanor. We've been childhood sweethearts for 20 years. How can it compare to your 5 years with her? It's just, she sobbed and forced a bitter smile. We're going to miss each other again. Hearing this, Julian held her in his arms and comforted her softly. Eleanor is the Sterling family's savior. She definitely won't be in trouble. It's bad luck to send these things during the new year. Stella, don't worry, in my heart, you will always be more important than her. Reassuring himself, he inexplicably remembered the outline of the baby, feeling uneasy. Through the hidden camera in the urn, I saw Julian secretly sending messages to me behind Stella's back. The screen full of white turned green, but he was destined to get no response. Julian panicked a bit and quickly called the Civil Affairs Bureau. Learning that his marital status had been restored to unmarried, his phone slipped to the ground, and even breathing became difficult. Impossible. It was just removing a layer of skin. Eleanor wouldn't die. She really went to great lengths to make me acknowledge that illegitimate child. But with his legal background, how could he not understand the common sense that only the death of a spouse would automatically dissolve the marriage? Staring at his figure rushing towards the Sterling family, I just found it funny. Does Julian still care about whether I live or die? He kept sending me voice messages on the way. Eleanor, stop messing around. I'll allow you to give birth to the child in your belly, no matter who the father is. The mistakes you've made are forgiven. Will you spend the new year with me? As long as you obediently show up, I'll arrange the wedding immediately after the holiday. Growing more choked up, Julian's voice was no longer recognizable. Eleanor, I'll send Stella away, okay? Even if you make me angry, I'll accept it. But I felt a barren emptiness in my heart on the other side of the screen. You see, he clearly knew everything. He was just relying on my love to act unscrupulously. Stella, thinking I was really dead, vented her anger at Julian's sudden departure on me. The messages that popped up were vile. You still want to steal my man even when you're dead? It seems peeling your skin and blowing you up wasn't cruel enough. Go to hell with your little bastard. While I closed my eyes tightly, calming my mind, silently preserving all the evidence, waiting for the storm to come. Under Mr. Sterling's orders, a ban was posted at the entrance of the Sterling family. It clearly stated, Julian and dogs are not allowed inside. I'd never seen him so humble, pleading with the security guard just to see me. Meanwhile, Arya in the yard kicked a soccer ball at his head, sticking up for me. Seeing the blood seeping from Julian's forehead, Mr. Sterling sneered. You already killed Eleanor, who are you putting on this act for? Mr. Sterling had the servants throw the packages Julian brought into the trash, announcing to his face that the two families would never cooperate again. Julian was about to explain, but a call from Stella made him leave immediately. Before leaving, he clenched his fists and said seriously to Mr. Sterling, no matter what it takes, I will find her. Standing on the balcony, I forced back tears, feeling ashamed for feeling sorry for that man even for a moment. I was shocked that he was so extreme. The next day, Julian kidnapped Arya, holding a knife to her neck, his voice low and hoarse, filled with an undeniable threat. Let Eleanor come out and see me, or don't blame me for taking action. Mr. Sterling rushed over, shouting at him. Julian, are you even human? Are you addicted to killing people? You've already sent out the wedding invitations. Why aren't you with your bride? What are you doing bothering Eleanor and Arya? The man's eyes were wildly deranged, trying to maintain composure. What do you know? I'm atoning for Eleanor's sins. Because I didn't give Stella a skin graft in time, the skin Eleanor burned became necrotic. The engagement is just to appease her. That's absurd. Mr. Sterling's face was livid. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes twisted together. You're the CEO of Ashford. Can't you even afford compensation? Stop using righteousness to cover up your shameful thoughts. Why don't you check the surveillance footage to see if Eleanor really hurt her? Using white wine instead of anesthesia, peeling off skin with your bare hands. You're more cruel than an executioner. Casting a cold glance at Julian, Mr. Sterling threw a paternity test report in his face. You don't deserve to be a father. The hand holding the knife loosened slightly, the lines of text piercing Julian's mind like steel needles, freezing him in place. How could this be? How could I have killed my own child? You all tricked me. Pain climbed from his spine to his torso, and I, hiding in the corner, cried until I couldn't stand up straight. Having considered all possibilities, my husband never thought that I was telling the truth. He didn't believe Stella framed me, didn't believe the child was his, didn't believe anything I said. Perhaps in his eyes, giving a lying, venomous woman like me a chance was a gift. Mr. Sterling took the opportunity to rescue Arya, and the bodyguard kicked Julian in the back of the knee. He curled up on the ground lifelessly, covering his face and crying. Don't cry at Eleanor's grave, you'll taint her path to reincarnation. A crisp slap echoed in the air, and if Arya hadn't been holding him back, I believe Mr. Sterling would have really killed him. Eleanor is my adopted daughter, and I will find out the truth and get justice for her. Tears blurred my vision, my fingers clenching tightly. The last time someone defended me like this was Julian. To repay me for shielding him from a car accident, he disregarded everyone's objections and insisted on marrying me. But as time went on, the already impure feelings grew colder, collapsing completely with Stella's appearance. Watching him abuse himself, I couldn't stir up even the slightest ripple in my heart. He got up in a mess and knelt in front of Mr. Sterling with a trembling voice pleading, "Please tell me where Eleanor is." She wouldn't bear to leave me. I promised her we'd have the wedding after the new year. Even if I can just see her from afar, I want to apologize to her in person. I know I was wrong. Eleanor was wrong. Mr. Sterling was dismissive of his belated apology. She was wrong to misjudge people. To marry such a heartless man like you. Didn't you receive the urn and portrait? Isn't her death exactly what you wanted, so you and Stella could be together openly? I've lived this long, and you're the most disgusting person I've ever seen. Suddenly the phone rang. Looking at the word Stella on the screen, Julian's fingers hovered over the answer button, hesitant. I turned my head away, not wanting to watch anymore. How could he bear not to answer? In every lifetime, Julian abandoned me for Stella. But unexpectedly, the man took a deep breath and cut off the call. He gave Mr. Sterling a miserable smile. I've broken off all ties with Stella, are you satisfied now? His shoulders slumped, his voice bitter. There's a reason for all this. Stella and I grew up together. If Eleanor hadn't saved me, the woman I should have married would have been. He didn't finish his sentence, but my last line of defense gradually crumbled, my heart breaking even more completely. It's not that I don't love her, it's just that my guilt towards Stella prevented me from letting go of the resentment. But I understand now, the one I truly love is Eleanor. The once powerful CEO Lou, at this moment, was pale and tottering. As long as you tell me her whereabouts, Julian said, his lips pressed into a firm line, making a shocking decision. I will declare Ashford bankrupt and become an ordinary couple with Eleanor. All his remorse sounded exceptionally hypocritical and contrived to my ears. When he was worth billions, he couldn't protect me. Penniless, how could he be so unfeeling and ruthless? Stella gets to enjoy the benefits, while I have to bear the brunt of the suffering. He's dreaming. Mr. Sterling couldn't bear to look and distanced himself from him. Idiot. You don't need to declare bankruptcy. The Ming family has already gutted Ashford long ago. Who do you think arranged the car accident in the first place? Treating a murderer like a treasure, you're truly laughably devoted. That so-called burn, the lighting of fireworks, it was all a deliberate act by Stella. At Mr. Sterling's signal, the bodyguards restrained Julian and shoved the surveillance footage from that day in his face. He paused, then shook his head in astonishment. What nonsense are you spouting? Fabricating evidence is illegal. But when the police sirens sounded and Stella, handcuffed, appeared before him, Julian couldn't say another word. Mr. Ashford, after receiving a report and confirming the facts, Stella endangered public safety on New Year's Eve. Please come to the police station with us to verify the situation. Cold sweat constantly broke out on his forehead. Julian tried to pull Stella back to his side. How much money did the Sterling family give you? I'll pay double. She could never commit murder and arson. It was all done by my wife. Restrained by several police officers, Stella cried shamelessly. Wang Jin, save me. I don't want to go to jail. Because of Julian's questioning and lack of cooperation, not a single police officer had a pleasant expression. Mr. Sterling provided the video to us. There is absolutely no possibility of manipulation. Everything came to light, and Julian's previous defense became a joke. He forcefully slapped Stella and rushed over to strangle her. Stella's face immediately turned purplish red. You lied to me. I personally peeled off Eleanor's skin for you, and now you're telling me it was all fake. I killed my own wife and children, and you were still planning to marry me, you bitch. Out of duty, the police quickly pulled him away and showed him the chat logs between Stella and me. Stella colluded with the doctor to maliciously exaggerate her condition. In fact, she didn't need a skin graft at all. Also, you illegally blocked the road some time ago, preventing the ambulance from reaching the scene in time. According to the investigation, the patient was Ms. Eleanor's father. Julian could no longer deceive himself. Breaking free from the police, his fist fell furiously on Stella, hitting the woman until she screamed in agony. Soon, Stella's hair was disheveled, and blood from her nose mixed with tears flowed from the corners of her mouth. Seeing that everything was lost, she could only hug Julian's leg and desperately beg for mercy. Wang Jin, don't blame me. You were the one who betrayed our love first. I just love you too much. If it weren't for Eleanor, none of this would have happened. Stella's emotions collapsed further. You said you would marry me when you were little. Why marry Eleanor? Just because she saved your life? You don't love her at all. Otherwise, how could you so easily believe me? At this moment, Mr. Sterling said quietly, Julian, Don't forget who was the culprit behind that car accident back then. Stella's eyes widened instantly. How do you know? Realizing she had let something slip, fear enveloped her. Sure enough, the man completely lost control, violently tearing off the piece of my skin from her body. I'll kill you. I watched this farce unfold with a blank expression. Even if Stella dies, who will bring back my father and child? Compared to my pain, Julian's belated remorse is not worth mentioning. Stella was beaten black and blue. As she fell to the ground, she saw me in the corner and pointed at me with difficulty. Eleanor, you're still alive? As soon as she spoke, Julian almost instantly raised his head and choked. Wife, I knew it. The will to survive made Stella crawl towards me in a wretched state, constantly kowtowing and admitting her mistakes. Eleanor, it's all my fault, I confess. Please don't let me go to jail. I won't compete with you for Wang Jin, okay? Julian puts contraceptives in your food every day. What else do you want to know? I'll tell you everything. Get out. Julian kicked her over after being hit where it hurt, then anxiously looked at me. Wife, don't be fooled by her. I ignored him and instead stepped on Stella's grafted skin, grinding it again and again. Is my skin still useful? Apologizing now, hoping to get a lighter sentence, huh? Regretted in prison. I will never forgive you. The last glimmer of light in Stella's eyes completely extinguished. She stopped struggling and was stuffed into a police car. Julian looked at me, resurrected, with joy, but he still didn't dare to step forward. He took a step closer, and I took a step back. He could only look sad and lost, saying in a daze, Eleanor, there really isn't anything between Stella and me. I know you risked your life to save me back then, and you stood by me against the rumors. I saw it all. Having said that, he covered his face in pain. Stella blinded me, otherwise I would never have joked with your life. I'm sorry. Give me another chance, okay? Let's forget everything and start over, okay? His hopeful eyes were particularly sincere. But I and my child were in so much pain. My blood was almost drained dry by you. How can you expect me to accept the demon who almost killed me? I calmly stated the cruelest facts, as if it were someone else's story. In my memory, blood spurted out. The disappearance of my child caused my internal organs to vibrate in pain, and I almost fell into the abyss of death. Julian beat himself in remorse and cried loudly, Eleanor, you can do anything you want to me, as long as it can transfer your pain. Pain cannot be offset. I smiled indifferently. You are not worthy to participate in my emotions. With that, I left this place of trouble, supported by Arya. Before being taken away by the police, Julian knelt in front of Mr. Sterling and kowtowed heavily, begging for mercy. Please help me take good care of Eleanor. She can't be hurt anymore. Even I can't handle a gin of white wine, let alone skinning someone with a knife. What exactly did I do? His cries were deafening. Arya looked at my red eyes and hugged me. Eleanor, you still have me. I responded, and warmth climbed into my heart. Perhaps I made a big mistake the moment I saved Julian. A misplaced love is destined to have no result. Fortunately, everything is finally over. Mr. Sterling and Arya treated me with utmost care like real family. This year's spring festival doesn't seem so bad either. The next time I heard news about Julian was that he had died tragically in prison. I heard that he was always talking nonsense about a previous life, regretting that he had harmed his wife twice. The prisoners in the prison learned that he had murdered his wife and children, and often beat him unconscious. While trying to escape from prison, Julian accidentally had his stomach pierced by the fence, and his intestines spilled out all over the ground. I glanced at the time. That day happened to be our wedding anniversary. And Stella wasn't doing much better, with numerous charges against her. Only death awaited her. Eleanor, come and eat. I snapped out of my thoughts. On the last day of the new year, Arya specially made dumplings for me. I bit into a coin in the first dumpling. Looking at the clumsy mark on the dumpling skin and her expectant expression, I couldn't help but laugh. The road ahead is long and bright. Perhaps the spring of the new year is more worth looking forward to.